Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to you all. I'm Alex Sinclair, the CTO of the GSMA, and I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to join us for this latest in our series of membership webinars. Today we're going to be talking to you about the new GSMA Foundry, together with our various communities and how they interact. A couple of points to remember before we start, as there has been some confusion in the past. The core activities centered around the working groups and the community work are all part of your annual membership. Foundry activities are completely new. They're opt-in only, and they will require additional commitment in terms of resources, i.e. money or people. They're additional and they're not covered by basic membership. We'll cover this in a bit more detail a little bit later on, but this will also not impact on, of course, the traditional working group, for example. But before we start, let's take a look at today's agenda. I'll hand over shortly to Richard Cockle, who heads our Foundry, and he'll explain the process we went through with our board to come up with the so-called next chapter for the GSMA, and of course how that fits in with what we already do today. David Pollington will then present the Foundry in a little bit more detail, and at that point we'll pause for the first of two Q&As. So please have your questions ready. You can post in chat at any time. After that, Aruna Srinivasan will kick off the second session, where we'll be delving into the various GSMA communities, as we like to call them. Some are old and established, others fairly new. Following that, Barney Stinton will then take you through our membership services, and then we'll pause for the second round of questions and answers, before Barney closes the call promptly and hopefully on time. I hope you find the material interesting, and I look forward to lots and lots of questions, so please remember to post. Okay, time to hand over to Richard, the head of the Foundry, to talk about the next chapter.
Thanks very much, Alex, and that's a great introduction. And as Alex has said, we're very much here to talk about the new chapter, and we're very much here to focus on the new elements of that. As mentioned, the core services, which you are all probably very familiar with and very engaged with, will continue in the way they are. And we're just trying to bring a new way of working into the GSMA and a new way for us to continue to provide industry impact in the best possible way. Next chapter, please. Next slide, please. So, as Alex said, we decided to change the way that we deliver our industry programs. During the summer, we took the opportunity to take a look at the way that we deliver and gather feedback in terms of the way that the GSMA operates its products, its program activity. And some of these will probably be very familiar to you. Sometimes the GSMA activities can be perceived as being slightly slow. We focus a lot on consensus rather than speed. And although we get a lot of direction from the industry, we sometimes struggle with real ownership in some of the activities that we deliver and commitment from the members that have asked us to do that. And we very much focused on long-term orientated activities. So that's meant that we've had a good strategic vision. However, sometimes by the time we deliver it, the need has already changed. The feedback that we received from the industry from a positive sense of, from a positive point of view, is that we very much do represent the global voice for a fragmented industry, and we bring that together, delivering our interoperable services. We provide a very strong policy position that enables the industry to thrive. And we are very much the glue that brings together not only the operators, but also the broader ecosystem. And we are a key facilitator for engagements with governments and international organisations. So taking that feedback on board, we decided to change the way the GSMA delivers some of its activities and introduce what we're calling the GSMA new chapter. Next slide, please. So the new chapter is very much focused on three key pillars: connectivity for good, which everybody will be familiar with in terms of our advocacy activities, and that will be very much focused on connecting the world, safety and security, and also protecting the planet. We'll continue to drive the world-class activities that we have in terms of outreach around MWC for our big events, our 360s, which will be very regionalised around the world and relevant to those particular parts of the world. Mobile World Live will continue to be up to date with the key hot topics and be able to share that with you. And GSMA Intelligence will obviously be a thought leader and true market understander of what's going on in the industry. What we're here today to talk about very much falls within the industry services and solutions. As Alex has already said, core technology activities will continue the way they are, with the working groups continuing to provide the collaborative working space for the new products and specifications that the industry needs, continuing to provide services like the roaming activity that we have and WAS. GSMA Services will continue to provide products and services that could be relevant from an industry perspective on your behalf that you can take advantage of. And the new way that we want to deliver change and deliver industry impact is through the GSMA Foundry. And within all of those activities, we want to take a new view on the way that we operate. We want to see projects that are not only consensus-based, but they can be opt-in. We don't need everybody to do a project going forward. We want those projects to be short and sharp and agile, be able to pivot when we realise that we need to change the focus. And also we want to be able to stop them if the activity isn't going the way that we think, or there's been a significant change or direction within the industry. We want those projects to be business focused so that we're solving the real challenges for the industry today. And we want real commitment from those participants. We want these projects to be smaller, sharper, with true commitment from the participants, with what we're calling skin in the game. And that skin could be anything from resources, it could be facilities, it could be budget to enable something to happen. But what we've learned is that our members are more engaged and more active when they have that true level of engagement in the activities that we run. Next slide, please. So today we will hear about two key functions that we're looking to expand and grow over the next few years as a replacement for some of those industry programs which we used to run. We're very keen to ensure that we keep the strong engagement that we had within those programs. So we'll continue to support and grow the community forums which we have and make sure that they are truly encompassing of all of the elements of the mobile industry going forward. And you'll see them there. They'll be in the fields of customer verticals around manufacturing and automotive, but we'll also be making sure that we're there on the key topics from an industry enablement point of view, from including things like the Internet of Things, IP comms, identity and data, and obviously a number of hot topics at the moment around open networks and telco edge cloud. The first part of this session will be focused on the Foundry. And the Foundry is very much aimed at changing the way that we deliver, moving away from those long-term, long programs that require everybody to be aligned to shorter, sharper projects that aim to deliver real impact really quickly, enable us to learn and evolve in new areas of the ecosystem going forward. And the range and the scope of those projects can be very broad, as you'll hear. They can be anything from a new product concept that that a number of partners want to bring together and take to market and learn from, through to new industry schemes that need to be deployed. Maybe something along the lines of Open RAN and how can that be tested and certified. Or it could be new businesses that need to be created. So we're very much aiming to provide a Foundry, a delivery capability that can support the industry to have real industry impact really quickly. So with all of that said, I'd like to now hand over David Pollington, who's the leader of this group, which aims to deliver the new way that we want to deliver projects within industry services and solutions. Over to David.
That's great. Thanks very much. If you can go to the next slide, please. So the vision of the Foundry, as Rich was alluding to, is really to facilitate cross-industry collaboration and business development. So it's about enabling players to come together, the GSMA members to come together and to work collaboratively to address a challenge, to address an opportunity, and to deliver real impact into the industry. If we go to the next slide, please. So the aim of the Foundry is really to be able to facilitate and work on a whole range of different activities. So here are 4 different sort of examples here, just to sort of give you a flavour. So starting top left, influence. This is really all about looking at the mobile enablers that we've developed within the industry and seeing how we can best bring those enablers into vertical sectors to be able to help industry partners to address their pain points. So this is all about really promoting the benefits of mobile enablers, 5G enablers, and how they can be used. The Forge is really where then players may come together to address a particular challenge. So that challenge could be around something like power efficiency across 5G networks, but it's anything where there are a few GSMA members that have a common interest to pool their resources and work on a particular challenge. Nurture in the bottom left, this is where, for instance, there could be a new idea coming into the mobile industry from a new player, a startup, or perhaps it's an idea that has already been proven within a particular market, and there's value to the wider community in taking up that idea and rolling it out across their own market or region. And then accelerate is where there's a proven solution, commercially viable, and it's something that we can potentially help to scale. So those are the kind of the 4 different areas that potentially the Foundry could encompass. Go to the next one. So when we talk about the Foundry, and Rich touched on this in his presentation, the aim really is that it's a focused team of individuals that come together from a number of companies. So I guess in contrast to some of the approaches that the GSMA has taken in the past with a program of activities, rather than involving all of the industry members, the aim here is where there are a few players that want to come together and really work on something quickly to generate some proof points. So you could have multidisciplinary teams that come together. These teams are self-governed, they're self-funded, so everyone brings their own resources to the project, as Rich was saying, skin in the game. And really what the GSMA is providing here is a framework and the resources to help facilitate these projects and support them through to their objectives. So it's collaborative, it's agile. The aim here is that projects can pivot. If they're not delivering against their aims, then obviously they can fail fast. But it's all about being outcome focused and really trying to create value for the industry. If we go next one, please. So, I mean, these are just candidate topic areas, but some of these sort of the key ones that we've started to look into in some of the projects for the Foundry. So mobile enablers I already touched on when we were talking about how, for instance, the mobile industry can influence other sectors. There's a lot of interest at the moment around dedicated networks with network slicing or private networks for critical IoT. A lot of opportunity around the edge. A lot of discussion now around the importance of edge to IoT services or latency sensitive services. And there's this whole area of networking as a service or connectivity as a service. So we see this as a potential growth area where there could be lots of opportunities to run POCs, proof of concepts or trials to actually test out some of these concepts and really generate those proof points to show into some of the manufacturing sectors of the value of these mobile enablers. Moving on to mobile assets, digital transformation is going to be key for a lot of businesses. We've already seen that over the last 12 months with COVID and remote working, but the importance of identity and trust when you are within those remote working environments. How can people really be sure that they're talking to the right person? So there are enablers within mobile networks in terms of being able to look at the devices that people are using for accessing these remote services and looking at how some of those enablers and insights, perhaps driven by artificial intelligence, can help to other businesses to ensure security and trustful transactions. And then in terms of the network itself, obviously there's a lot of innovation around virtualization within the network with things like O-RAN and vRAN, but also the application of artificial intelligence to the operations and maintenance of the network as a whole. And as I touched on previously, something like power utilization, power management, obviously is top of mind as everyone looks at their carbon footprint. Okay, if we go to the next one, please. Okay, so now I'm just going to run you through some of the projects that we have running in the Foundry, or projects that we're currently working on as potential candidates to go into the Foundry. So this first one around Telco Edge Cloud is really an opportunity to bring companies together. So this is very much in the vein of looking at mobile enablers such as Telco Edge, and how that can be applied and utilized by a whole range of different service providers to bring value to their businesses and to improve performance of their services. So this is all about generating some lighthouse reference use cases, generating some proof points, and then really bringing those learnings back into the wider Telco Edge Cloud ecosystem and helping people to understand the benefits of Telco Edge Cloud. The next one. This one's very different. So 5G-IN is an initiative that we're currently looking at in the Greater China region, and this is really about generating an accelerator with a number of industry partners that would help to foster innovation around 5G. There's obviously a lot of 5G at the moment within China, but within other regions as well. And this is how potentially we can harness some of that innovation and help to shape it and direct it and support it. So this is very much around trying to accelerate the use of 5G. Next one. Always on network service. Again, this is different. So this is very much looking at how we can use some of the new enablers within Release 16 of the 3GPP specifications to create a framework for providing essentially an always-on guaranteed network capability for key sectors. So things like mobile payments, financial services, banks have a dependency, an increasing dependency now on mobile for actually conducting their business, but also obviously things like emergency services, safety tracking services, etc. So the aim of this particular project is to work through the technical solution, to build out an actual framework and to test it. So this is all about essentially a pre-commercial trial of a capability that, if proven useful to the service providers, will then potentially go into commercial production. Okay, next one. RAN data sharing. So this again, another different sort of slant on the type of thing that we can do within the Foundry. So this is very EU specific, and this is looking at the borders between different EU nations, where typically if you have something like a vehicle that's moving across those borders, there is a drop in connectivity, a drop in service. So as we move towards a world where potentially we have autonomous driving cars, we have drones that need to be transferring across these border crossings, we need a way of actually improving that connectivity. So this is really looking at how we could potentially be sharing RAN data between PLMNs so that they can optimize the handoff between the RANs at the edge to try and improve and reduce that latency. So this is something that we're looking at potentially with some of the European operators. I think there's one more. Yeah. And just on that theme of automotive, we have another project. This one's really about trying to bring together the automotive industry and the mobile industry to look at how we can improve the situation for providing consumer connectivity within cars. So obviously at the moment, there's already machine-to-machine connectivity for telematics, eCall, etc. within vehicles. And then users may be offered a separate contract, separate subscription by an auto manufacturer. They may potentially bring their smartphone into the car and try and pair it with the car's infotainment system. The aim here is to create a framework which is more seamless, that allows a user through use of things like a consumer eSIM within the car to bring their mobile subscription and their services with them. And this is particularly looking at a future where people may be moving on from ownership of cars to spending more of their time renting or leasing cars, and therefore as users move between different vehicles, they want to be able to very quickly and easily bring their subscription, bring their services with them as they get into each car to personalize that car. So it's around providing ease of use for the consumer. It's also around trying to address some of the regulation, which is going to make it increasingly difficult for things like smartphones to radiate sufficiently within cars if the cars start implementing metallized windows for environmental requirements, etc. So that gives you kind of a broad brush of Foundry, type of projects that we're currently exploring through the Foundry, and we very much welcome any suggestions from the membership in terms of ideas that you think would be interesting to take through the Foundry, and then we can work with you on those different ideas. So at this stage, I was just going to open the floor to see if there are any questions. Please do get in touch. There's more information on the web. You can see my email address there, and also there's a mailbox for the Foundry itself. But I'll just pause to see if anyone has any immediate questions before we move on in the presentation.
Hi, David. It's Erin here. On the chat, we've got a couple of questions. So firstly, how can we find out about Foundry initiatives we might be interested in?
Yeah, so I think we'll be looking at how we sort of make that information available to everyone through the membership newsletter, etc., or through the website, the public website that I just mentioned. So as projects get started, we'll be making those visible to everyone. But also if there are particular areas that people have an interest in, either from an opportunity standpoint or an industry challenge standpoint, if you can let us know the kind of areas that you'd be interested to join a project within, then obviously then we can reach out to you and try and bring people together with common interests to actually start those projects.
Great, thank you, David. And the second one is, what's the process if I have an idea for a Foundry project? And what if I need additional partners?
So the process essentially is if you can reach out to myself or through the Foundry mailbox, if you can let us know the kind of idea that you have, we can then work with you to sort of shape that idea to identify what other participants might be needed for the project to deliver on its outcomes. And then through the membership that we have within GSMA, we can look for prospective partners to bring in to then work with you. And then essentially form the project teams. And then once everyone is in agreement in terms of what the project is to set out to do and how to do it and roles and commitments, etc., we can help to get those projects. One more around funding. So the GSMA itself is not putting funding into the project. So as I said previously, all of the participants need to be self-funded. So this is very much around everyone bringing in the resources that they have, and then those resources being pulled to essentially then work within the project to deliver on the outcomes. You know, if someone comes to us with an idea and it does have a requirement on funding for doing some you know, development work, etc., then obviously then we can sort of work with that proponent to see if we can find a source of funding. But the Foundry itself, at least not at this early stage, will be funding projects directly. I think that's it on the questions. Erin?
Yes, it is. Thank you very much, David. And we will, for participants, thank you. For participants, we will have another Q&A at the end of the webinar as well. So if you think of anything between now and then, feel free to continue popping it in the chat. Right, so now I'm Erin Srinivasan, also from the technology team of the GSMA. And now I'm going to give you an overview of the GSMA community. So next slide, please. So just to recap, David just gave you an overview of the left-hand side of this diagram, the new Foundry and the projects. And now I will cover the community forums. So the forums are arenas where the ecosystem gets together to share learnings and best practices, to network, and also to advance topics of common interest. We have 9 different communities at the GSMA. We have 4 vertically focused communities and 5 technology focused communities. So, and I will give you a quick overview of all of those. So next slide, please. So starting with the vertical communities and in manufacturing, the 5G IoT Manufacturing Forum. So this was launched 1 year ago, and its objective is to educate, support and advance the global adoption of 5G and IoT by the manufacturing and industrial sectors. So the forum meets 5 times a year. We have usually 70 people. In fact, it's pretty consistent at 70 join the calls from about 30 different companies. And those companies cross both the mobile ecosystem and the manufacturing and production sector. For example, from the manufacturing side, we have participants such as Airbus, Foxconn, ABB, and so on. So some, excellent participation from some top-tier companies on both sides, on both the mobile and manufacturing side. So within the forum, a lot of information sharing, industry viewpoints. So the different organizations and different industries, we can understand each other, understand customer requirements from the mobile side, but also understand the possibilities and the potential of 5G and IoT as well. Within the forum, we have concentrated on a number of different key topics. For example, benefits propositions. We've published 2 benefits propositions in the areas of factory floor efficiency and product build and quality, describing how 5G and IoT can contribute to those, the key use cases, the benefits of those technologies. We also have a very big focus on private networks, private and dedicated networks, actually looking at both the benefits and the features of both private networks, but also, for example, slices of public networks for the use of enterprises. We also have concentrated on security, so we've just undertaken an exercise of gathering specific security requirements from manufacturers that we as the sort of mobile ecosystem need to address. And we're also deep diving on the topic of AGVs and AMR, so autonomous guided vehicles and autonomous mobile robots, which is a key area where 5G is expected to make a real step change in the capability of those devices. So as mentioned, meeting 5 times a year, open of course to all members, and we have a lot of resources up on the website as well. Next slide, please. So moving along to aviation. So the objectives of the Connectivity for Aviation Forum is to advocate the benefits of mobile networks, to engage with regulators, explore new revenue streams, and of course bring the mobile and aviation industries together. The activities under aviation, there are 2 main activities. The first is the Drone Interest Group, which has been active for over 4 years with over 50 members. A lot of operators from across North America, Europe, Asia, as well as aviation companies. There's 4 meetings a year, and there have been many useful publications such as unmanned aircraft remote identification, benefits and use cases, and there's also a number of web talks available. The second activity under aviation is the Aerial Connectivity Joint Activity, and this is where the GSMA and the forum stakeholders liaise and collaborate with the wider aviation ecosystem and key organisations there. We have a cooperation with the Global UTM Association, GUTMA, and undertake a lot of joint work on developing technology documents and so on with them. There's a very good relationship with Amsterdam Drone Week, the Civic Air Transport Association, and various other associations. So a lot of ecosystem development and joint work being undertaken in that activity. Once again, also publications and web talks available on that website as well. Moving on to financial services. So the GSMA Financial Services community focuses on increasing collaboration between financial services industry and the mobile ecosystem. And the focus to date has been on the areas on the right-hand side, so credit risk scoring, SIM swap, social engineering, stronger authentication, as well as malicious mobile threat landscape. Participation in the community is extremely good, and you can see in the middle there top tier names from across the mobile industry, broader internet, and of course the financial services industry, including leading banks, as well as some up and coming internet-based financial services companies. Once again, regular virtual meetings are held with many participants. There are also case studies and other resources that have been developed, as well as some catch-up videos online. So moving on to the next community, which is automotive. So within automotive, there are a number of activities actually across the GSMA which are relevant to this vertical. And the first few, eCall, CV2X, and network reselection, involve actually a lot of engagement that the GSMA and this forum undertakes with the appropriate bodies. For example, engaging with the European Commission on next generation eCall, also with the European Commission and the Automotive Mobility and Advisory Board around CV2X, and 5G AA on network reselection. So a lot of that sort of advocacy and ecosystem development work. And there are actually a lot of core activities of the GSMA very much relevant to automakers with strong participation from them, such as eSIM, enabling remote provisioning, roaming, of course, which is extremely important, particularly when you have cars crossing borders and the need for a seamless transition across networks. Identity, generating a framework that enables users to leverage their existing mobile subscription with their cars. Private networks, because of course in automotive manufacturers are manufacturers as well. So many of the topics we undertake in the manufacturing sector also relevant in the automotive arena, and mobile edge computing being another key topic of interest. So there are a number of activities that are relevant to the automotive vertical. Moving on to the next slide. And now the next 5 communities I'll talk about will be the more sort of technology-based communities, starting with IP Comms. So IP Comms covers the area of operator communication services. Once again, regular meetings are held with participation across the mobile ecosystem. Some of the key topics that have been covered are the future of MMS, where there's been a trial run. Topics that are actually being addressed now include future of voice, where the long tail of apps depend on have bound to be dependent on voice, and they're now looking at the evolution of enablers to support these, and also business calling. So increasing the user experience, the quality of the user experience by making better use of a smartphone screen, and also reducing the value proposition of fraud. So a lot of interesting and key topics being covered in this community as well. Next slide. The Internet of Things community. The IoT community focuses on advancing the deployment of and the usage of mobile IoT networks, so those being LTE-M and NB-IoT, and ensuring that both the networks are deployed, but of course, but also that the devices and services deployed on those networks are efficient and make best use of the capabilities of those networks. So there's a 5G IoT strategy broad, and also a number of action groups that collaboratively undertake work items on key topics. And the current topics that are being addressed are roaming, energy, migration, and efficiency. There are various resources that have been developed by that group, including developer guides. As I mentioned, it's really key to ensure that the services and devices deployed on these networks are optimized in terms of how they use the network and their settings and so on to make the most of the capabilities. And IoT guidelines have been produced to help that along as well. And also events and marketing is a key activity of this group. So moving along to the next slide. The Telco Edge Cloud Forum. So this forum focuses on promoting and also progressing Telco Edge Cloud capabilities. One key area that this forum looks at is the interconnection of different clouds to enable a global Telco Edge cloud. They input commercial and business requirements into the GSMA operator platform group and other bodies, share experiences and discuss trials and so on. So another key group in the GSMA, and they also have some resources online as well. Moving on to the next slide, open networking. So open networking group focuses on 4 key activities: the technology roadmap to scale demand, the economic model to evaluate potential cost savings from open networks, the IPR framework for the purpose of new entrants, and also looking at the security of open source and open interfaces to counter claims of weakness. Extremely good participation, once again, which you can see on the bottom of this slide. And the policymakers guide is currently in the approval stages, so should be available shortly. So moving on to the next community, which is the Identity and Data Community. This was formerly known as the Mobile Connect Interest Group. So the Identity and Data Community focuses on sharing knowledge and best practices on identity and data services. There is a focus on Mobile Connect and data services and the development of commercial solutions for third parties. There are various case studies from existing deployments, the sharing of market insights, technology, as well as regulatory trends. And during the forum, there are speakers from across the ecosystem, both the mobile ecosystem, channel partners, and so on. Bi-monthly conference calls and online collaboration, which is of course open for all members to join. So next slide, please. So as you can see, we have a wide variety of communities going at the GSMA and covering key topics. Some of the benefits are listed here on the left-hand side. Of course, the vertical communities give a really great understanding of that particular vertical. So obviously understanding your customer is key if we're, as the mobile ecosystem, are going to be developing services for them. So understanding what are the key, not just connectivity, but service and business drivers that are driving them in their activities. And of course, across all the communities, exposure to new mobile technologies and an opportunity to shape what those technologies look like, bringing together the ecosystem and of course the networking opportunities that brings. Here on this slide as well are key contacts for each of those communities. I believe this slide deck will be shared after the event, so please do reach out to the relevant stakeholders. And next slide, that is it for the communities. And if you do have any questions, please do pop them into the chat and we'll have another Q&A shortly. So I'd like to hand over now to Barney Stinton, who heads up our membership function.
Thanks, Serena. That's great. There are some questions, but we'll save those for the end. If you have any more, please keep typing them in. Chat box or the Q&A box, and we'll cover them. As already said, my name is Barney Stinton. I work in the membership team, the team dedicated to looking after our members, helping you guys strategize to get the most out of the GSMA. I just want to talk about tomorrow's agenda. If I may, next slide, please. Where we'll be covering some different topics. We'll be having similar chats, but tomorrow morning it will be artificial intelligence, eSIM, blockchain security. And then in the afternoon, we'll be talking 5G, Internet of Things, and open networks. And these presentations will be available online. We can send the links to you all. Next slide, please. So far you have seen and heard about all the new ways in which the GSMA is working. Hopefully you've seen a new level of relevance and value, but some of the good stuff still remains from the membership point of view, those value adds that are staple in your GSMA membership and included in your fees. Let's just quickly recap over the types of membership categories. We have the operator members, the category of their own, and then we have the rapporteur members, that's a category just for MVNOs. And then industry members. This used to be called associate membership. We've now changed that to industry members. So that's everybody outside of the core operator and MVNO categories is put into that. Then we have something new that kind of fits in with everything that's been discussed on this call already, and that's sector members. We've set the sector membership up to accommodate all the new industries that we're going for, the automotive, the manufacturing, the financial services. And this is a kind of more bite-sized entry-level membership category that bridges the gap between our mobile telecom industry and the other industries that we are seeing become naturally part of what we do and what our members do as technology and mobile telecoms evolve everyday life. Next slide, please. So let's just quickly recap again over some of the benefits. You've heard a lot about working groups, which is vital to our members and really is the kind of core part of the GSMA. You heard a lot about that. Then we also have InfoCenter 2. This is the platform, the online platform that's only for members and allows you access to all the working groups, all of the output, the white papers, the findings on there, but also gives you access to all of our other members and the individuals within those companies. Gives you their working title. You can contact them and shows you what else they're interested and involved with. So from a business development point of view, InfoCenter 2 is a key enabler in helping you develop your business and your network. It also gives you access to the RAYX and key tools in that. And there are online training sessions available if you contact. There's resources and training, newsletters, webinars, and discounts on the GSMA Advanced training sessions as well, and lots of discounts on other services when you are a member of the GSMA, including the device database, GSMA Intelligence, which I urge you all to look into a bit more, information on the website, but also do contact us for more information on that. We'd be delighted to set up GSMAI presentations for you so you can look through and have an introduction through what GSMAI operates. Tax allocation fees, security accreditation schemes. So all of these, you get discounts as GSMA members. And then there's the events and networking. We've obviously seen a bit of a change to the events industry in the last 12 months globally, but that's starting to come back and turn around with a 30% discount on delegate passes, GSMA, and 3% discount on stand space at MWC Barcelona, which I'll be talking about a little bit more in a minute. What else have we got? Regional support. We have very good regional teams looking after you wherever you are in the world, and they're kind of communities within the GSMA. So I do urge you to reach out to your regional head and see what you can get involved in your area. Marketing opportunities, there are plenty of them. We're always interested to receive your white papers, your case studies, and anything else you want to share with the wider GSMA community. Membership, contact us, we can help you do that. and then projects and advocacy initiatives. So participating in projects other than what you've heard about already with regards to Foundry, but on the Spectrum side and public policy, mobile for development, M4D, and external affairs and industry purpose, where the GSMA is kind of fighting for the forward movement and evolution of all those elements. Next slide, please. MWC Barcelona, 28th of June to the 1st of July. This is happening. Physically, this is happening with the theme of connected impact. It will be a hybrid. It will be virtual as well. We've got many, many layers of processes and procedures to ensure that everybody attending in person is safe and remains safe. We've got an extraordinary level of kind of safety features involved. And if you haven't seen the press releases on that, please do contact us and we can provide them, because we've put a lot of work into this to ensure that the industry can convene physically. But if you cannot be there, you can connect virtually, and we very much hope to see all of you there, either in person or on a screen. It would be fantastic, but it is coming back. Things are changing and going back to normal slowly but surely. Next slide. So here is the team, and as I said earlier, this is your team. We are here to support you, our members. There's me in the corner, and then we have the operator members being looked after by Yvette and Maria Smith. Females are there as well. If you are a rapporteur, an industry member, or sector member, or interested in looking at sector membership, you have Harry Wang looking after APAC, Abel Sinha, Lucy Marshall, and myself looking after the rest of the world, wherever you are. There is an email address, membership@gsma.com, for general inquiries, and it all comes to us. There aren't teams of people at computers taking in your queries. It's us on the screen, so you will be dealing with one of us, human beings, and we're always here to help you. It's also worth looking at booking strategy sessions, which we will be undertaking in May and June, where we will spend time with you individually and look at everything that's coming up in the GSMA calendar, all the touch points, everything you're interested in and what you want to achieve as a business, and applying what we're doing to that. So we've got a calendar full of touch points and interaction with the GSMA, planning for the year ahead so you get the most out of it. I think that's my last slide, and I think we're going to go to questions and answers. We've got a question here: how do communities interact with the Foundry? Also, how do both of these interact with the traditional GSMA working group? Who would like to answer that from the GSMA side?
I can jump in, Barney. Put my camera on. Yeah, so certainly the idea is that the communities are there to reach out and engage with the different industry sectors like financial services. Where there is some ideas that come into those communities where perhaps a few of the players would like to go and explore something in more depth and potentially to explore it through a proof of concept or a pilot and generate some proof points, that's really then the role of the Foundry, is to help to facilitate that level of engagement with the results of those trials then being shared back with the wider community. And it can work the same with the working groups as well. There might then be ideas that are explored through the Foundry, proven through the Foundry, that then need to transition into the working groups as a work item to then develop some specifications to allow broader commercial deployment through a common set of specifications.
Great, thank you, David. There's a question about the GSMA legal framework and whether it includes the GSMA IPR policies and it applies to the Foundry projects. Yes, absolutely. When you sign up as a member to the GSMA, all that paperwork, the application process, there's everything more than amply from a legal point of view, protecting everything that's done within your work as a member. And this applies to Foundry projects. Everybody taking part in the Foundry projects has to sign up to our T's and C's, and that secures everything that goes on within. And as I said, these presentations, the 2 more tomorrow, I've been through the agenda for those. They will all be available online, and we can send links. There's a couple minutes to reply to any other questions if you have them. If not, we will finish slightly earlier. I'll give it another 10 seconds. Type away quickly if you can, if you have questions. No, I think what we'll do then is we'll thank everybody from the GSMA involved in today's session, and thank you very much, all of you, for attending and watching and taking part in this. There's another session tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock BST and one at 4 o'clock BST tomorrow. So thank you all very, very much. Any questions, please contact us in the membership team, membership@gsma.com. Look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.